Playoff sports are back on television. The NHL has gone through their qualifying round. The Nets are in the next round of the playoffs. What's going to happen with all of this playoff sports coming up? Find out right now. It's Downtown Sports. I'm the mouth of the South, Jon Schiavone, along with my co-host, the Beast of the East, Jonathan Pariente. This is Downtown Sports. This is where sports come home. This is a two-hitter, ladies and gentlemen, and the Beast of the East has a special guest that we're going to introduce to start off this two-hitter talking about the NHL. Take it away, Beast.
Thank you, Mal. As we are getting set for the Stanley Cup playoffs, the qualifying rounds and the round robins are over. The round one of the playoffs begins tonight. And joining us, we are pleased to welcome back an old guest of ours, the radio voice of the New York Rangers and the national broadcast voice for NHL playoff games on NBC Sports Network. We're pleased to welcome back Kenny Albert to Downtown Sports. Kenny is joining us from Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. Kenny, how are you doing over there today, my friend?
I'm great, Jonathan. How are you?
Doing well. So before we dive on into the playoffs a little bit, I want to talk about the Rangers, who got eliminated from the qualifying rounds last week. But a silver lining has emerged. The Rangers were awarded the number one draft pick in the lottery. It's the first time in 55 years the Rangers have had the number one draft pick, and they're going to have the rights to Alexis Lafreniere out of Canada. I wanted to get your thoughts on how this is going to help the Rangers and how much better are they going to get now with the possible signing of this draft pick.
Well, it was a huge day for the Rangers, Jonathan, yesterday. As you mentioned, a disappointing end to the season, but to have a 12% chance, 12.5, and win the lottery the year after you moved up and acquired the second pick, Jeff Gorton, the general manager, brought along police officer Stephen McDonald's police badge, the Lucky Charm. He was a huge Ranger fan, and there's an award named after him, and he's a huge supporter of the team, passed away a couple of years ago, and the good luck charm has worked now 2 years in a row, and Alexis Lafreniere seems to be the odds-on favorite to be the number one pick in the draft. He's an 18-year-old winger, high expectations, obviously. Saw a couple of interviews with him yesterday, handled himself really well. So when you talk about the Rangers build and the letter they sent out to the fans in February of 2018, things have gone a lot quicker than expected with the signing of Artemi Panarin as a free agent, the trade for Adam Fox, the trade for Jacob Trouba. When you look at how well Igor Shesterkin played this year, getting that second pick last year and selecting Kakko, and now winning the lottery and having that number one pick, it's huge news for fans of the New York Rangers.
And to follow up with that, speaking of Igor Shesterkin, his first year as the starter for the Rangers, where do you rate him right now? What do you see his future being?
Well, when you look at the 12-game sample, he was obviously outstanding during the NHL regular season. Unfortunately, only started the one playoff game due to the injury situation. But if you go back further, you look at what he did in the American Hockey League this year, the KHL in Russia over the last 4 or 5 years. It certainly appears, you never know because he's only played 12 games, but it appears as the Rangers have their next franchise goaltender.
Talking with Kenny Albert, the radio voice of the New York Rangers and the national voice for the NHL playoffs on NBC Sports Network. 11 Rangers, Kenny, made their playoff debut in addition to Shesterkin. Now, the Rangers did not play as up to the level that we anticipated. It was a different round playoff atmosphere. They had a long period off where they hadn't played. How much will this help the young Rangers now going forward into the next year or so? David Quinn as the coach. What do you think the Rangers really took from this playoff series in the qualifying round?
Well, as you mentioned, 11 Rangers had never played in a postseason game before, and there was a pretty good team on the other side. The Carolina Hurricanes had gone all the way to the conference final back in 2019, and they have a couple of young superstars in Svechnikov and Aho. Their goaltending was terrific. Their defense as a group, I think, played a lot better than people expected. So while it was disappointing from a Ranger standpoint, you do have to give credit to the Hurricanes for sure.
And let's move on to the other New York team. It seems your old roommate, is going to have to go play against some old friends in the Washington Capitals. So Islanders, Capitals. What do you think of that series?
Well, it should be a terrific series. You look at the series in the East, whether Columbus, Tampa Bay, Carolina, Boston, Islanders, Capitals, Philly against the Montreal team that just upset Pittsburgh. Barry Trotz obviously knows the Capitals very well. I think, from an offensive standpoint, you would have to give the edge to Washington, but from a defensive standpoint, you would probably give the Islanders the edge. The goaltending is pretty even with Holtby and Varlamov, so it should be a terrific series.
The entire Stanley Cup playoffs itself look very promising. The qualifying rounds altogether, I think, were a great touch for the NHL to do this, to have this type of way to give those teams a chance. What are your thoughts on how the NHL really handled this whole thing with the pandemic that happened, having this qualifying round, having the round robin, and doing these games in 2 hub cities in Canada? What is your grade you give the NHL for putting all this together, and more importantly, no players tested positive?
A+++ at this point. The qualifying round, adding the 8 extra teams, I think was fair, and we did see a number of lower seeded teams win. Because when the pause took place on March 12th, there were a number of teams still within striking range with 10 or 11 games left in the regular season. Teams were 2, 3, 4 points out. The Rangers were 2 points out at that time. So I think it was fair because the regular season ended a bit early. And speaking from experience, now that I've been at Edmonton for about 6 days and out of my room for the last 2 after I quarantined for 4, they've done just an unbelievable job. The bubble setup has worked. As you mentioned, no positive tests out of about 7,000 last week. I've been tested every day, 6 times now since I arrived in Edmonton. Everybody in the bubble is tested every day. Players, coaches, trainers, staff, broadcasters, everybody. And the way it's set up, Jonathan, I'm looking out the window in my hotel room at the 2 other hotels. So there are 3 hotels involved in the bubble plan. So it's 3 hotels and the arena, Rogers Place. And there is fencing, high fencing set up, connecting those 3 hotels and the arena. You can only go to those 4 places. So you can eat at the restaurants in any of the 3 hotels. There's a plaza area within the fencing outside the arena where I spent some time yesterday on an off day. There were players from various teams there, coaches sitting at tables, eating. There are 3 food trucks. There are a couple of basketball hoops. I shot hoops alone for about 30 minutes yesterday wearing a mask.
Nice.
I had my mask on and I was shooting a basketball just to get a little exercise and time out in the sun.
Did you hit any threes when you were shooting the basketball?
Mostly layups. Okay,
that's perfect. That's perfect.
A couple of 2s, not many 3s.
Awesome.
But anyway, it's great. I mean, the setup is terrific, and it's worked so far. And today is the first day of the first round, and let's hope that it continues to work over the next 6-7 weeks.
Speaking with Kenny Albert, he is about to be calling a game. Which game are you going to be calling specifically?
I have 2 games, Arizona, Colorado, and St. Louis, Vancouver. And then later in the week, I actually have 2 triple headers, Friday and Sunday, 3-game days, which will certainly be unique. There are 16 games in Edmonton during that stretch over the next week. Pierre Maguire will work all 16.
Wow.
Really couldn't be more excited.
Yeah, this sounds like a couple of years ago for you, except you're not on flights running in between hotels trying to get a Starbucks while reading game notes.
Right. In that sense, there is no travel. You're in the same hotel. It is easy, and you get to see all 4 Western Conference series. Yesterday, I was doing prep work for all 4. I have Chicago, Vegas later in the week. Ready to go. Should be a lot of fun.
I have one final question. We'll get you out of here on this last one. The rest of the playoff games that we're going to be seeing, the Islanders are going in. Are there any teams that you think will stand out that could really have a deep run to win Lord Stanley's Cup this year?
I think a lot of teams have a chance, Jonathan. When you look at some of the upsets in the first round with Pittsburgh, Toronto, and Edmonton losing, it was wide open. And obviously you have to look at certain teams as favorites. I've been really impressed with Colorado, St. Louis, the defending champs, although they've struggled in their round robin games here in Edmonton, although those games, they didn't have meaning as far as potentially getting eliminated. It was just for seeding. But Colorado looks real good. Vegas won all 3 of their round robin games. Haven't seen the East games in person, but really impressed with the Philadelphia Flyers and what they've done. They're now the #1 seed in the East. So a lot of terrific teams out there, 16 left, and we'll see who's the last one standing.
All right, on that note, Kenny Albert, the radio voice of the New York Rangers, will be calling the NHL Stanley Cup playoff games. Kenny, thank you so much for taking some time to join us, and good luck on your games. And let's hope we have a great hockey playoff round this go-around today.
Thanks so much, guys. Appreciate it.
All right.
That was Kenny Albert. He is, as John said, he is calling multiple games at this NHL playoff. He is a national voice of the NHL, radio voice of the New York Rangers. And you know what? That was a great bunch of insight, and we've got more coming for you right after this. How you guys doing? This is the Mouth of the South, John Schiavone, and the Beast of the East, Jon Pariente from Downtown Sports, where sports come home. Are you registered to vote at your current address? It's a really important question. You know, more than 60% of eligible voters have never been asked to register. Headcount.org is working to change that.
At headcount.org, you can also check your registration status. Millions of people get purged from the voter rolls every year. Everyone should check their registration status every year. The deadline to register to vote in some states is as early as October 4th, so you want to check before then.
You could also request an absentee ballot, get info on early voting, and find your polling place, or see who's even on your ballot.
Headcount is a nonpartisan, nonprofit that tours with musicians to help concert attendees register to vote. But you don't need to leave your house to register or get voting info. Just visit headcount.org.
Register to vote today at www.headcount.org. Once again, www.headcount.org. Let your voice be heard. Don't let yourself be voiceless. Register to vote. And we're back. This is Downtown Sports. I'm Jon Schiavone, the Mouth of the South, along with my co-host, the Beast of the East, Jonathan Pariente. We want to thank Kenny Albert for coming on and giving us his insight into the NHL playoffs. But this is a two-hitter, and you know what? We actually left a runner on second base. And just like any good two-hitter, we're not going to leave runners in scoring position. We're not like the Mets, okay? We don't leave runners in scoring position. So in order to get that runner in from home, it's a downtown 180. Start the clock, Beast. Take it away.
Oh, man. Well, we want to extend our shout out here to the Brooklyn Nets, who have officially now become the 7th seed, qualified. They're going to be competing in the NBA playoffs. It will be against the number 2 seed. In this case, it will be the Toronto Raptors, who they will play in that first round. And this should be a very, very interesting scenario if you are the Brooklyn Nets. And I really have to give credit to this team where it's due. Jacques Vaughn. Nobody really knew much about him at the time. Kenny Atkinson was let go. Kevin Durant out for the year. Kyrie Irving opted out. DeAndre Jordan out because of COVID. Taurean Prince out because of COVID. The Nets, you would have thought as a Nets fan that everything you could have possibly thought was going to go wrong went wrong. None of the stars playing for the Nets. Everybody thinks the Nets have no chance. Everyone's writing them off. Sometimes, though, a team with the least amount of stars is a team that can play the most ball as a team. Kind of a weird saying I brought up, but if Tom Thibodeau was able to make this work with a Bulls team when he had no Derrick Rose, the Grizzlies were able to do this in the past with a blue-collar type mentality under Lionel Hollins when their main star was Zach Randolph. I have no doubt in my mind that the Brooklyn Nets can pull off this very same performance despite not having their main pieces. Yeah, they're going to be playing with a very different group. Also, I didn't mention they're going to be minus Spencer Dinwiddie as well. So really, 5 players are down for the Nets, partially due to COVID, injuries, you name it. But I'll tell you what, guys, this Brooklyn Net team has really found a way to make believers out of people. Now, going up against the Raptors will be a very tall order. The defending NBA champions, I know it's in a different environment in the bubble, but I'll say it, no crowds, no fans. has really brought out the competitive edge in every one of these NBA teams. I have not seen one game so far that was a blowout in any way, that ended in a lopsided score. Every game went down to the wire. Every game went down to the last possession. Maybe a couple turnovers here and there determined the outcome of the game. But I really am looking forward to what we're going to see now as the road to the NBA Finals officially begin. The Nets play their final tune-up game in a way tonight against the Portland Trailblazers, and then the stage will be set. How deep will the Nets go? How will they do against the Raptors? Well, we're going to find all of that out very soon. And that was your Downtown Sports 180.
I said bring the runner home. I didn't say bring the runner home, bash the runner in the head about 1,000 times. There you go. See, when we have to drive in runners, we can drive in runners.
Nope.
This is Downtown Sports. And where can they hear us do all of these wonderful segments like the rants, the 180s, the episodes, all of it? Where can they hear us?
We are on 10 platforms. We are on Anchor, Spotify, Breaker, Radio Public, Pocket Casts, Overcasts, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Castbox, and now we are on Bullhorn. So 10 different platforms, 10 different ways you can hear us, and we're further expanding every day. And now, as we dive into the real meat now of our two-hitter, we go into baseball. And suddenly baseball suddenly is now going to think about adopting what they should have taken notes on from the NBA and the NHL. And now baseball wants to do their playoff games in a bubble.
Wow.
Where was this 3 months ago, 4 months ago?
I don't know. But where was this before I yelled at Rob Manfred and told him he should have been fired in that last rant I did?
I mean, like, how many?
All of a sudden,
how many games have been thrown out of commission right now? How many games are still haven't even played out their season?
Here's an easier number to count. How many games have the Cardinals played this year?
Maybe like
That's actually an easier number to count than how many games have been thrown out, because the amount of games that have been thrown out are higher than the number of games the Cardinals have played. Start that clock, because we've got a lot to talk about. And you know what? Major League Baseball, so far, right now, I'd say baseball is getting like a solid D. It hasn't
solid
shut down.
D?
A D.
Hmm.
Only because it hasn't shut down as of yet. And yeah, it makes sense for them to do their playoffs in a bubble. They should have done their whole season in a bubble. We already went through all the reasons why this entire MLB thing has been a gigantic batch of failure. But when we talk baseball, I want to talk about actual games being played and actual failure taking place on the field. Because Steven Matz.
Well, if you're a Met fan, it's not been a good number of days to be a Met fan. It was bad enough when Yoenis Cespedes decided to opt out. Recently, Marcus Stroman opted out, another of the Mets' starting staff, who had been hurt. He was hurt before this. But
He had a calf injury.
And now
he opts out. But here's the thing with Stroman. He opts out after months and months of talk. He went on Twitter talking, yapping about how he's going to be great this year. I'm going to go out there. I'm going to be a number 2 starter in New York. I'm looking forward to this. Blah, blah. He went all over social media telling everybody he could about how good he was and how good he was going to be and how much of a competitor he is, and he's not going to opt out. And then when he gets the calf injury, nah, I'm a competitor. I'm almost ready to come back. They could have said from the calf injury, oh, he's opting out. No, they were putting out reports, oh, he's about to come back. He's a week away from starting. Then a few days later, he opts out. See, this is the thing with the Mets, and it just kills me. But I also, Knicks fans, by the way, this is your future. with Leon Rose. This is your future as an agent with as your general manager or team president or whatever the hell you want to call him. Because Brodie Van Wagenen has literally built a roster of malcontents that don't even have enough respect to call the organization before they opt out. You know what? I give Stroming credit for having a press conference. The fact that I have to give a player credit for having a press conference when he's opting out in the middle of the season is laughable to me. Because Yoenis Cespedes decides he's gonna, put up a shh emoji after the first home run. Then he decides, you know what? I'm gonna hit 161 and then opt out. And then not only opt out. Now, by the way, Brodie Van Wagenen was his agent that got him the contract that he's currently on with the team right now. He doesn't even opt out. He leaves the hotel room and makes it so that the Mets have to actually put in the media, we don't know what happened to Yoenis Cespedes. They said team officials to look for this idiot. And he wasn't even in his hotel room. He was gone. You can't make this up. You can't make this stuff up.
And then a Twitter video. There was a video on his Twitter that surfaced to him with a woman just days or so after he opted out.
Yeah, he's at a salsa dancing club. Real scared of COVID.
This almost reminds me of the Jet Circus that we had under Idzik, 7 years ago? And now it's come on the Mets side. Now the circus has come to Queens.
The three-ring circus never left. Remember, the Wilpons had Cirque du Soleil in the parking lot. Remember Cirque du Soleil in the parking lot of Citi Field?
Oh, of course.
It's out there every single season. It's not because it's not as if the Mets would actually need parking lot space for all the fans that are showing up to watch this wonderful product we have in the field. Oh, yeah, look, Yoenis Cespedes bobblehead day. You know what they should do? They should replace the Yoenis Cespedes bobblehead with a bobblehead of the wild boar that injured him. That's what they should do. Look, you can't make it up. And I really wanted to be positive about Yoenis Cespedes this year. I thought he was going to do some things because when he's not hurt, generally he doesn't play like garbage. But after hitting 161, putting up a shush emoji on Twitter after one home run, and then the rest of his season was pure garbage, then he opts out without telling the team? Just come on.
He's done this not just with the Mets. He's done this with the – he did this with the Red Sox, the Tigers.
He didn't do this with the Red Sox or the Tigers. He didn't do anything like this. This is ridiculous.
He would just he would just leave when, he couldn't get along with the players he was with there. Then he would go somewhere else.
And then the other part of this is – the guy who negotiated that contract is currently his general manager. The agent that signed his contract is the guy who is his general manager, and he still does this. Yoenis Cespedes bit the hand that fed him. I mean, I know Brodie Van Wagenen isn't a great general manager.
Is it Brodie Van Wagenen or more like Brodie Bandwagoning? He's like a bandwagon, more like than a bandwagon.
I don't know what it is with
I don't
Brodie.
think he's even a station wagon. He's not even a station wagon.
All I know is that the Mets don't make the postseason when you could actually have 8 teams out of each league making the postseason. Brodie Van Wagenen should be out the door. Along with Rob Manfred, he can go too, but we'll worry about that when the season ends.
Oh, I think you're going to see Brodie go out the door very, very soon. The way this is going, I mean, look at what's happened to the whole Met lineup. Everyone thought, oh, this Met lineup was gonna hit a great average, be a 300 or plus hitting average team.
Remember, they hit 251 home runs last year, and Robinson Cano played like crap.
What happened to? So what's happened to the polar bear, Pete Alonso? How's he hitting this year? 200?
Yeah, the problem with him is he's pressing.
He's pressing
a lot. Like you can see him at the plate. Like his approach has changed.
What's happened to Jeff McNeil? Where's he been, Mr. 300 average, Mr. Guy that can give you 2 hits a game almost every single night? What happened to Jeff McNeil?
Here's the thing with the Mets. Robinson Cano finally starts to hit, and now he's hurt. This is just the way the season is gone. Mats was supposed to, he was doing well at the end of last year. And then this year comes along. He starts off great. Then the next start against the Red Sox was okay-ish. He gave up that really big home run. Then after that, it's like Mats has been progressively getting worse and worse and worse as the season goes. Stroman is now opted out. So your starting rotation consists of Waka, Porcello, Peterson, the rookie, who's been doing better than all of them besides DeGrom. Waka doesn't look good. Porcello is barely treading water here. He had a good start against Scherzer, and, he's strung together a good couple of starts. But just like with DeGrom, if a Mets pitcher pitches well, they can never score a run. So, that's kind of how that goes.
It's rough. It's a rough time to be a Met fan right now. And look, the Yankees are going through some difficult times of their own. They're not alone.
Oh, yeah. Real
Stanton,
difficult.
Once again, Giancarlo Stanton can't stay healthy. Out again. Another injury. What else is new?
So terrible that Clint Frazier has to be called up from the minors to be your DH. I feel for you so much.
I have nothing wrong with Clint Frazier being called up. We've never figured out as a Yankee fan what to do with Clint Frazier. We call him up, send him down, call him up, send him down. Eventually, I wouldn't be surprised if he's even out of options. We can't keep sending him down. We either have to find a spot for him or you got to trade him. One way, shape, or form. The same thing goes for Miguel Andujar. I love his bat, but his fielding's not good. We either keep him or we trade him. Urshela is playing third. That's his position. We can't take Urshela off of third base, period.
And I'm not trying to get Andujar first baseman's glove when you got Voit and Ford. Why would you do that? There's no reason. Those two bats are just fine in that first base position.
And then, of course, and then the Yankees are also still down. The Yankees don't have Canely for the rest of the year. That hurts their bullpen. Chapman is still not back. I don't know when Chapman's coming back. So our bullpen is shorthanded. We have to rely on Britton to close games, which is fine. Ottavino, fine. Green, fine. But we don't have that extra bridge that we normally have for the bullpen because
so your bullpen's like a normal bullpen.
It's a little weaker than it's pretty weak. It's a little weaker than what it normally would be.
And even so, it's still the best pen in baseball.
Still is. But still
I love how self-entitled you Yankee fans sound sometimes.
We have to look at it from the base.
I don't have Kingley. Stanton got hurt again. I have to play Mike Tauchman, who hits just as well and fields better. And then I have to put Clint Frazier in the DH hole. I'm still in first place.
The complaints you always hear are, Brett Gardner shouldn't be playing anymore. He should retire. Why is Stanton still in the lineup? Get rid of him. Why is Gary Sanchez still in the lineup? He keeps striking out. That's the arguments I constantly read of Yankee fans. Constantly. Gleyber's not having a great year. He's hitting like below 200. Gleyber's been off also like Alonso. He's kind of going through the
team can still win.
We still can win, and that's great. But again, we need depth out of our starting pitching. That's still our weakness. We're also remember, we're still down Domingo Germán. We're still down Luis Severino. We're relying on Jordan Montgomery. He's been kind of like Matt's, a little up and down. He's had a good start. He's had a bad start. He's still coming back from
Jordan Montgomery's pitched better than Steven Matz.
He has, and I'm happy that he has pitched well, and I hope he can be a consistent piece for us going forward. I think he could be. But again, when we're relying on just Tanaka and Cole, Paxton's not looked like himself other than the last start against the Rays. Paxton, have you noticed, is not even throwing 97 miles an hour. He's throwing barely above 93.
He's been doing that for the past couple of seasons, though. Like
he was throwing 96 last year. He threw 97 last year.
Yeah, at the end of the year, and then the back trouble.
He's been having the back issue he's had for a long time, and he finally got the surgery.
There are some starts that I didn't see where Paxton, I just saw didn't have his stuff last year and was throwing 94 as his high point in his fastball at certain points. So it's not his velocity that I'm worried about. It's the fact that he can't. It's the fact that the differentiation between the fastball and the changeup is gone.
Yeah, he has.
That's the problem.
I think just like CeCe did, he's going to have to learn how to adapt with diminished stuff. Just like.
I think he's doing it. You see, here's the thing. I've seen him pitch games where he maybe the highest he touched was 96 if he busted it.
But that's usually
and he still won.
that's usually what I expect Paxton to throw. He can hit about 96, 97.
Yeah, like if he really guns it. I'm expecting 93, 94. Right now we're getting 91, 92, and when your changeup's 87, it's flying out the park.
He's hit 90. He did hit a little 94 in his last start, which was a sign, but it's only one start. I need to see him do that over the next couple. And I know it's a shortened season. That's why we're being very critical. It's only 60 games. So
Everything is exactly. And if you're wondering why are they so crazed after like 11 or 12 games, everything is so hyperanalyzed. But think about it this way: if I'm a Met fan, if I played 6 games against the Marlins and lost 4 of them, a sixth of my season contains 4 losses to only 2 wins. When you have a 60-game season, everything is just that much more amplified. We don't see seasons this short in sports in general, at least in the 4 majors. So everything is playoff atmosphere. Everything is hyper aware. What baseball has done is they've actually inserted August and September feel because, well, what's left in the season to play?
Now, funny thing here, I was looking up, going back a brief moment to how many games the Cardinals have played. And they've only played about 5 games since they've, since the whole COVID came out. Yeah, they played 5 games.
Just to give you guys some perspective, right?
I have some good news.
The Cardinals have only played 5 games, right? They've only played 5 games. They've played less games than an entire team that caught COVID-19.
Let me share some good news on this little sour tragedy. As of today, the Cardinals have 0 positive results of COVID today. So that
wonderful.
Means maybe that's a sign that we're going to soon see them come back to playing again. Manfred still believes they can have a credible season.
I mean, a few doubleheaders should make up for the missed games. Here's the thing. As long as a team doesn't have to be eliminated from contention, you're going to have a season. It's just everything is just so hyper aware. And yeah, strokes of luck may happen where, a team like the Orioles, for example, they're playing well.
Marlins.
A team like the Marlins, for example, look at how they're playing. I said the Orioles because they're doing better than anybody expected them to do. Look at the Marlins. They're doing better than anybody expected them to do. A lot of people are now starting to call Oakland the best team in the American League. People are starting to call for Oakland A's versus Atlanta Braves World Series, and
they're dominating in the National League. The Cubbies have been the best in the National League so far.
Yeah, there you go.
Rockies out of nowhere. The Rockies are playing great baseball out of nowhere.
You see, here's the thing. When you give only a 60-game sample, everything is that much more hyper-analyzed. Everything is that much more hyper-scrutinized because every missed pitch, every hung slider, every missed stolen base, every error is magnified by at times 3 because you're only playing a third of the games that you played. And with that, that's time.
We are about a third of the way now through the baseball season, and we're going to see what will happen. We are already halfway into August. The season will end by the end of September. Then it's right to the playoffs. And the idea of possibly playing in a bubble, we'll have to see kind of how that situation will evolve. We've had some notable excitement from this baseball season as I'll wrap up this note. The Blue Jays finally played their first home series this other day in Buffalo. Yesterday was also the first time that 3 Major League games were played in New York at the same time since late September of 1915. Isn't that amazing? Mets played at home in Citi Field, Yankees at Yankee Stadium, Blue Jays in Buffalo, New York. 3 games, 105 years. 105 years.
2020. I mean, this year, if 2020 hasn't blown your mind yet, I don't know where you're living or what you're doing with yourself. And with that, we're going to end Downtown Sports.
Downtown Sports comes to an end. You can listen to us on 10 different platforms. We are on Breaker, Anchor, Spotify, Radio Public, Overcast, Pocket Cast, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Castbox, and Bullhorn. We want to thank Kenny Albert for joining us earlier today. We want to thank our crew, Shane Sullivan. We want to thank Chris DeLarge and Anthony Mainville. And we will have live rants and episodes every single week. on Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever day of the week it is, because we are Downtown Sports, and we are where sports come home. I'm the Beast of the East, the mouth of the South, John Schiavone. Goodbye.
Yeah.